Hello, fellow procrastinators. My name is not NerdCubed, but if it was, I'd be playing Far Cry 3 and not talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! But anyways, here we are, Silver Contrail here once again to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! That trading card game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Maybe it's kind of indie, you know, like this one guy named Notch went. And I'm just gonna stop because this isn't funny. Anyways, here we are again, and it's another time for article aftermath. Last week's article was on Infernity, which is a really annoying deck to play against, and typically something that I don't like seeing my opponent sit down and set 5 and set a monster, and then running into that monster and going, oh, it's a necromancer. Those sorts of things, you get that feeling of dread, like all of a sudden, okay, how many of those set cards are Infernity Infernos or something? I mean, are they going to flip a Call the Haunted and then play a Transmodify next turn? What's going on? I don't know. It's worrying, when you see those cards and you start to see the Infernity plays, because it only takes one little slip up and then it's lava wall chain, lava wall chain, lava wall chain, lava wall chain, chain, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's an interesting deck. There's a lot of side deck potential with Infernity, a lot, in terms of what you can bring in against them. Like Dragonity, like Lava, like a bunch of other decks that are very combo based and go off into these big explosive combos. Generally speaking, there's something you can just put on the board and stop them from doing that. Infernity do suffer from that. They have way too much that is easily setted against them. And so when I did read this article, I kind of was overwhelmed with the options, and I picked a lot of the top ones I thought were really good, and I missed some. Typically that happens, and especially with a deck like Infernity, I'll miss some. So I tried to hit some of the ones that I thought were really relevant, and some other cool options, just to get a good range of things. And of course, I had a lot of people talking in the comments about different cards you could put in. Even something as simple as like compulsory evacuation device is just really good, because of course it's going to mess up their ability to use their theme support cards, to use their effects, all those sorts of things, which is really good when you don't want them to use those things. It really does bait out a lot of stuff very quickly, because even throwing like an Archfiend back to the hand is kind of a big deal. Because especially if they use up their normal summon that turn, then it's really a big deal. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about some of the comments. Yeah. On DD Crow, I actually had someone mention that. Like, DD Crow is interesting. It does, I've actually watched DD Crow bite people before. Just, they go to do that crow and then they're like, oh, okay, Lavier, and then they go off bigger than they could before. But then again, Crow is in something that Bo Butler talked about in another article, I think earlier this week. I don't know when it was. And he talked about DD Crow and how good it is, and it's really good, especially with like stuff like Dragonity rulers running around. Like, DD Crow just wrecks. But there are even outs for that. When you look at that Dragon of Castles, that Castle of Dragon Souls, I think is what it's called. I can never get that name right. I only just picked up a copy of it like a couple days ago, and it's a really good way to counter that sort of thing, where you can get your removed from play dragons back, and that's really helpful most of the time. Let me just close that. And a lot of people talking about spiritualism, which I did make a point of looking up, and that's pretty interesting too. That's not something I really thought about. It doesn't really have any matchup utility, but it's still an interesting card, and not something I thought about a whole lot. Or Darkbri, I have 7 tools, any sort of thing like that. Even Royal Decree, I flipped Decree against them and just been like, okay, I'm free to do whatever I want now. And they're not necessarily, because they're still held down by very simple things like a prohibition or whatever. And of all the times that I've played against Infernity, I've always won my games 2 and 3 because of some continuous card sitting in my back row, just keeping them from doing anything. And that's something Infernity really needs to worry about and needs to be concerned about. And in my opinion, it's a deck that absolutely has to win its game 1, or it's going to have a really tough time going forward. But it's still really good, and I think it's something that can surprise people as well. There's a lot of rogue picks out there, and this is definitely one of them. Necro Valley 2, I played just in the last tournament I went to, the final round against Gravekeepers, and Necro Valley was just ruining my day. It's a really solid card, and I think Gravekeepers as a whole could see play, but they're just not. They're really just not there at the same level as other decks right now, unfortunately. Necro Valley isn't enough to put them there. Even maybe like Ophion is a more anti-meta card for this format, unfortunately. But yeah, there's that. I mentioned a couple of other things, especially Kwakimir Drago. This is a card I really could see in Dragon Rulers, just straight up Dragon Rulers. I'm running it in my Dragonity Rulers because I make so much use of Tempest. And you plunk that thing down on the board, and any of your Dragon Rulers work with it. And what are agents going to do? What are... especially, look at that. What are agents going to do? Their main outs is stuff like they could summon and then honest you, but they can't like orange light you. They can't Valor you, because it's just gonna sit there, and it's gonna troll them for as long as it just stays face up. And it's got 1900 attack, which makes it bigger than all of their monsters they can normal summon, and so they're forced to rely on an honest or like a dark hole, and that's really easy to not lose to. Even something like one of the plays I tried to set up as much as possible was Stardust Drago, and it really messes them up. Agents, as well as Infernity, as well as Evil Swarm, as well as Constellar, all have issues getting past that sort of a setup. And I think Drago is going to be one of the next big, like, oh hey, why haven't we been running this cards, alongside maybe Pokedraco. And I don't expect Pokedraco to see a ton of play, but I think we'll see people start to pick it up very slowly. It's not obviously going to be a $10 card, I hope. That would be kind of weird. Even though it is adorable. It's an interesting card. So going forward, at least with Infernity, there's a big reason why Transmodify has gone up in price, and it's both because of agents and because of Infernity as well. I think Infernity's kind of up against the wall right now. There really isn't any support coming out for them, so they're in unfortunately a bad spot. But we'll see what happens. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling on now at this point. Infernity are kind of a overdone subject, I guess. But I did them because I had someone kind of ask for that. So went ahead and did it. There's something I wanted to talk about. Okay, so this week's article is on protecting sided cards, which hopefully, if you guys do read, you enjoy it. I think it's a little bit on the shorter side, but whatever. Mech-equipped Engineer. Huge card. Jason wrote an article about it last week. I pulled that thing right out of Number Hunters, and I read it over, and I'm like, wait a second, this is really good. I could like protect it in Apex Avian with it, or protect a Herald of Perfection with it. And yeah, like there's a lot of reasons to run it. It's really cool. It does a lot of work. It protects itself. It's basically like a big Zen mains, except that it once you use its effect, it's protected for the whole turn, regardless of what they try to do to it. How many times they try to destroy it, I guess, is the important factor. The downside, of course, is that it has no destruction effect, but it is chainable, so that's nice. It can protect a lot of things, and protect itself, and it's got, I think, like 1800 attack, which really isn't that bad. You can just kind of use it to poke with if you want. That's not really, not really a bad attack, not at all. And then we're seeing more people play that, and I'm wondering if that's going to bring Tour Guide back a little bit, or if it's just going to make, like, decks that can make rank 3s are going to have access to it, and that'll be about it. So we'll see what happens with that as well. And then kind of one of the bigger flops of the format, I think, is right now is number 66, Master Key Beetle. Hasn't really been seeing as much play as I thought it would, and I'm curious as to whether that's been influenced by Evil Swarm and Blackwings not doing well, or if that's just because the card isn't that good. Because, like, safe zone combos with Master Key Beetle, I guess maybe aren't as devastating as safe zone combos with what's its face, White Dragon Ninja. White Dragon Ninja is a much stronger card, although definitely it's a lot easier to get out the Master Key Beetle. In fact, I would say it's probably easier to get out Master Key Beetle in Ninjas than it is to get out White Dragon Ninja in Ninjas. So there's that too. And Stardust Dragon is just huge right now too. That's the other interesting thing, is how important Stardust is now. And it's been kind of fun to watch people change between different Dragon Ruler variants. But I'm still waiting for that deck to come along and just smash Dragon Rulers. Just have a really, really good matchup and get people away from that deck at least a little bit, because they realize that their Dragon Ruler matchup isn't going to be as nice. And unfortunately, the deck that's doing that the most are other Dragon Ruler variants and not something totally different. You've got Plant Rulers, you've got Dragonity Rulers, you've got the Blue Eyes Rulers, and I really just want to see the Rulers go to 2 so we can have our game back. It would be nice. Rulers semi-limited in January. I hope. That's what I'm hoping for. In the meantime, we've got Joey's World coming up this month. We've got the Tins coming up next month, and as well as the new set, Shadow Specters, which has Ghost Tricks, just like Ghost Trick Intern. But yeah, I think that's about it. Kind of not a whole lot to talk about this week. I haven't really been playing too much. I played in a tournament, went undefeated in that, and still playing Dragonity with Blaster because I don't have Sacred Star Swords, so I'm just playing. I don't play the Redox. I don't actually even own Redoxes, but I wouldn't run them if I had them because I don't have the 7-star sword. And then I just got Constellars together, so we'll see how that happens. I've been wanting to play that deck for a while, and now I finally got it, so I can play it. Yeah. I'm going to try some fun stuff with that. I think that'll be a casual deck when I get that together. It'll be kind of a throwback to an older deck that I had. I think I talked about that a little bit last time. Oh no, I talked about ninjas last time. Maybe that'll be a topic for something down the road. But anyways, yeah, that's about it for me this week. Not a whole lot to talk about. I think next week we'll have more to talk about. Yeah. So until next time then.